Shadow Jumpluff gonna fire off the energy ball, looking to move Wish Daddy Cash from the field of play. The opponent sends out Cradilly, of course. I could throw a charge move here, but nah, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. When I send out the Angry Ape, the opponent should reach that top left. Annihilape hits the field of play. Clearly the opponent wants that work. Who am I not to give it to him? Welcome back to the channel. Season 22 saw a massive meta shake-up, with so many Pokemon gaining access to new or buffed moves. Towards the end of last season, I was speedrunning some powerful teams, looking to regain all the elo I lost running all kinds of nonsense spice. The team I'm featuring today was arguably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, triple shadow team you could use last season. I was able to go from about 2600 back above expert rank in a single day, gaining around 108 elo. So today we asked the question, is this team still as good as it once was? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. The only change I've made is rather than Aerial Ace, we're opting for the buff move of Acrobatics, making Jumpluff quite slow to charge moves, but hitting fairly hard. With that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the battle. And in game one, I lead Shadow Steelix into Dunsparce, so it looks like someone else trying to relive the former glory days. Dunsparce are nowhere near as good as it was last season. This isn't a particularly great matchup for Steelix. The Drill Run going to do a lot of super effective damage. So how I use this team, I do tend to save switch Annihilape, although the issue with save switch and Annihilape this season is a lot of buff ghost and a lot of psywave use. I don't tend to save switch Jumpluff, however I'm going to take the opportunity to make a triple resisted drill run catch and hope the opponent has nothing to hard punish me. Jumpluff kind of plays a bit like Gastron, to be honest. You do need to pick its alignment. It's terrible into steel types where it's fully walled, awful into fire types, pretty bad into stuff like Toxapex, and has a double weakness to ice. So when using Jumpluff on this moveset, Acrobatics is always the correct move to throw in neutral situations. It does 110 damage as opposed to Energy Ball's 95. However, Energy Ball does have that chance of defense drop, which I'm able to get. Switch time is up. We see the pivot back into Steelix. We're going to tank the brine. The opponent sends back out Dunsparce, but Steelix now with an energy lead, going to fire off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe does do more damage, and I think I need two moves to knock out. The opponent now finds himself in Psychic Fang range. Psychic Fangs goes unshielded. We do have a shield advantage. Unfortunately, it's Drifblim in the back, and unfortunately, I'm just going to concede. Not really the start we're looking for. Let's see if we can recover. In game number 2, we see Drapion in the lead position. A nice matchup for me. The opponent can hit for super effective with these Aqua Towers, but Steelix does survive too. Breaking Swipe hits for neutral, does a fair amount of damage, and does have a coin flip chance of getting that attack drop right on cue. There is the attack drop, meaning this Aqua Tail is going to do even less damage. Steelix going to be able to outpace to the next Breaking Swipe. The opponent attempts to catch on Cradilly, hold my energy, and the Angry Ape hits the field of play. I certainly could consider shielding here, but if I shield a Rock Tomb, I'm probably going to be very tilted for the rest of my battle. So I look to call the bait. The opponent able to land the Grass Knot through to Protect Shield, Rock and Annihilape deep into the red health range. Undeterred, Annihilape able to get off a lot of boosted counter damage, putting them very deep into the red health range. I look at the health. If two Thunderfangs knock out, the opponent isn't going to reach a charge move. Steelix able to farm down, leaving with residual energy good to go. Out comes Mandibuzz. I go for the Breaking Swipe, fishing for the attack drop rather than the defense drop. It kind of is what it is. You can go either way. Of course, Breaking Swipe would be neutral, whereas the Psychic Fangs would be double resisted. Jumpluff not particularly favoured into this matchup, as we do take super effective from the Aerial Aces, but Aerial Ace is such a garbage move. I was happy to tank the first, however I've got two shields and I suppose I better start using them. Of course I do need to be mindful the opponent has Drapion alive at low health, and the opponent could potentially look to make a catch. However, speaking of catch attempts, the opponent's throw super poor timing, so I anticipate him throwing the move on alignment. Steelix able to tank the damage. Thunderfang farm down Drapion, and the opponent concedes the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Corviknight in the lead. Fantastic for me, the opponent save switches into Goodra. We're going to be able to outpace by a single turn to this Breaking Swipe. Both Breaking Swipe and Aqua Tail do take 12 turns, but Switch takes a turn, so we're able to outpace by 1. We land the Breaking Swipe, I'm going to send out Jumpluff and fully commit to a Fairy Wind farm down. Of course, the opponent will send Corviknight back out to absorb the energy, but Acrobatics a pretty good move after the buff. 55 energy for 110 damage, and you can add same type attack bonus to that as well. The issue for the opponent is that sand attacks are triple resisted, and the opponent is quite literally never ever farming down. The first Acrobatics lands, Jumpluff able to reach the second Acrobatics. The opponent's supposed to wall this energy, they already find themselves down to around a third health. The opponent continue to farm up. They make a catch, but trainer, do you really want to make that catch? Acrobatics forces the shield from Drapion. I send out the Angry Ape, and that is checkmate, and the opponent once again concedes the match. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see a fantastic lead. The opponent safe switches into Digger's Beast. This could potentially be the team that I showcased yesterday with Swampert in the back. How I always play this matchup, you tank the Scorching Sands. You need to throw the close combat before the opponent's able to reach the Fire Punch. I throw the close combat on the charge attack priority. If you was running an Ice Punch, you get away with an Ice Punch there, but I really think that close combat Hail Mary is so much more fun. Debuff on my own defense is very nice as well, meaning the opponent only gets off one gust. Here you can see I send Steelix out into the arena instantly without waiting out my timer, knowing this bird is still switch locked. We fire off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe isn't enough to get the job done. Brave Bird is resisted, but still going to rock me below half health. The opponent don't have Swampert, they've got their own Jumpluff, and I enter the mirror, not giving the opponent any energy lead. It takes 7 Fairy Winds to the first Acrobatics. The opponent throws on 6, so that can only be an Aerial Ace, which of course isn't going to be lethal. We have no ability to bait. A lot of people do run a full flying moveset when they opt for Acrobatics, but I've opted for Energy Ball just because I hate them stupid ground types and their Mud Slappers, and I want to be able to nuke them with that grass type coverage. We're just going to full send Acrobatics after Acrobatics. The opponent invests their Protect Shield. I look to make the catch. The opponent hold their energy. Did they throw the Energy Ball? Energy Ball does remove Steelix from the field of play, but with that catch, this game is over. Acrobatics is going to rock them into range where we're going to be able to Fairy Wind farm down before the opponent reaches the double Aerial Ace required, and we take that game. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Swalot in the lead. Of course, no one ran this bloody thing last season. I do actually quite like Swalot, and I've always been hyping it up, but last season it really wasn't the source. This is actually quite a neutral matchup. Despite them being a poison type and me being a steel type, Mud Shot hitting for super effective and Ice Beam hits for neutral. This big pile of gunk, not particularly quick to them Ice Beams, is straight 7, 14 turns to each of them, so Steelix easily able to win that 0 shield scenario. Steelix farms down, the opponent sends out Superior. An argument here could have been made that I should have pivoted. I do use Annihilape as the safe switch, but I'm actually just going to pick my alignment. I'm just going to elect to let Steelix go down and send out Jumpluff. The opponent needs to fire off a Frenzy Plant to remove me from the field of play. They do exactly that. Down goes Steelix. They send out Jumpluff. The opponent pivots into Morpeko. Morpeko meets the Angry Ape, and the opponent once again concede the match. In the next battle, we see Corviknight in the lead. A fantastic lead, but somewhat of a problematic safe switch. Clodsire, a bit of an issue for this team. I'm going to fire off the Psychic Fangs and then send out Annihilape. Counter, of course, is resisted, but shadow counters don't really care about typings. They're going to start really chunking, especially when I start boosting up that damage output with that Rage Fist that comes with a 100% chance to vamp up the Angry Ape's attack. Rage Fist goes unshielded. The opponent is going to reach another Earthquake, and I'm just going to shield a fully counter farm down. Despite being down both Protect Shield, this Corviknight has no real good way of hurting Steelix. With that in mind, I'm going for the kill shot, guaranteeing the shield or the knockout. Boosted close combat, forced the Protect Shield, and we make the catch back onto Steelix. Corviknight does learn Payback, but hardly anyone's running it. Most opt for Ironhead and Sky Attack, which means Steelix is a complete wall, and I'm committing to the aggressive Thunderfang farm down. The opponent reaches another charge, who Steelix simply does not care. Steelix gets that full Thunderfang farm down. Clodsire re-enters the arena, and I'm just going to knock it straight out with the Psychic Fangs, and I have the ability to debuff whatever's in the back. Out comes the Quagman. So in this matchup, I'm just going to let the opponent Mud Shot farm me down, giving me the ability to make a catch if I need it. Since the Mud Shot rework, Quagsire is now straight 7 Mud Shots to each of the stone edges. Of course, it used to pace the same speed as Clodsire, 766. The opponent throw the first one as soon as they get it. So with that in mind, I'm going to look to catch the next one as soon as they get that as well. But this is not a Stone Edge. It's either an Aqua Tail, which is resisted, or a Mud Bomb, which is triple resisted. Aqua Tail simply does not get the job done. And with that, this game's over. Energy Ball goes unshielded. The opponent recognises that as a potato play, and they concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Dugong in the lead. Steelix seems to be winning a lot of leads, to be honest. Last season was exactly the same. I saw rise to the occasion, win a regional as well, as Steelix is such a disregarded Pokemon, even in the PvP Show 6 circuit. Dugong fires off the Icy Wind. I've played this matchup a lot. So you throw the Psychic Fang, then a Breaking Swipe, and then you can Thunderfang farm down in 2, meaning you're going to leave it reasonably healthy, but the game actually like, nah, not today, buddy. The opponent can have DRE, and that cost me almost all my remaining HP. Kind of frustrating, but at least we do win alignment. Alignment turns out to be very, very nice for me. As a lot of people don't even have Energy Ball this season, a lot of Marowaks look to call the bait, and you better believe if this opponent doesn't put up one of them Protect Shields, they're getting nuked through 2. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Energy Ball removes Marowak from the field of play. I bloody hate that thing. It is so annoying. Get that stupid Marowak off my screen. Out comes Annihilape. If we had Aerial Ace, this game would be a very easy win. But as I overfarm, we're still going to be able to reach back-to-back Energy Balls, forcing both Protect Shields off the Annihilape. They're not going to have enough residual energy to outpace my own Annihilape to double charge move. So once I force the final shield, we pivot into our own ape. The opponent fire off the Rage Fist, but they're not going to win the race. Rage Fist forces my final Protect Shield. We outpace to our own Rage Fist, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Of course, this is the home of Shadow Pokemon, but Marowak has very quickly become my least favourite. I just don't like his playstyle. People just invest shields and just try and bully their way through matchups. They have no right in winning, such as Gator, by just tapping their phone and shielding everything. It just really isn't a fun playstyle. With that being said, Steelix kind of functions the same, although in this next battle we see a dreadful lead. I attempt to catch a Dynamic Punch onto Annihilape unsuccessfully. Out comes Drapion. I am going to shield up the Crunch, and here I remember I make a huge mistake. I should always throw 5 counters. If the opponent commits to an Aqua Tail, Aqua Tail won't do much of anything. So I actually only throw 4 counters, trying to CMP the Aqua Tail. The opponent survives the Rage Fist, and I've made a huge blunder. This also could be a crunch. I go down both Protect Shields in the mid-game matchup. Back out comes Metachan. We will be forcing one of them Protect Shields back. But the remainder of my team is going to get absolutely clapped by this thing. We should survive an Ice Punch, but the question is, can we reach one more Rage Fist? Unfortunately, the answer to that question is no. The opponent leaves with a charge move. I'm thinking, how do I absorb this energy? I send out Steelix, go for the show and go, try and catch the Dynamic Punch. The opponent hold their energy, and I am in big trouble. Ice Punch, double super effective. The first one rocks me below half health. The second will be moving Jumpluff from the field of play. A really, really poor matchup on me. It was Crazy Idiot in the back, and I am going to concede. Heading into the next battle. After playing that last battle really poorly, we lead Steelix into Diggersby with a Charmer Say switch. I already know this is going to be Diggersby double charm, and I'm in big trouble. Jumpluff is going to have to put the team on its back. This team just wants alignment at all costs, and unfortunately there is nothing I can do. Annihilape isn't going to be able to realign. I send out Steelix. It looks like I'll be unable to farm down, so I'm going to fire off the Psychic Fangs, picking up the knockout and pivot into Jumpluff. Of course, there's the second fairy type. So as I said previously, acrobatics would do more damage, but I'm anticipating the opponent just shielding the first move, so I am going to be fishing for that defense drop. Icy Wind, double super effective, so of course I'm going to invest that Protect Shield here. To be honest, I've almost give up at this point. Again, I'm not entirely sure why I'm throwing an Energy Ball. Acrobatics would do more, but despite that, you can see 2 Energy Balls or 2 Acrobatics would be lethal, so I guess it's neither here nor there. They both cost the same energy. Energy Ball picks up the knockout. Back out comes Thickersby. We farm up, look to catch the Fire Punch, back onto Steelix, and just like that, we are back in the game. Fire Punch is survivable. We reach the Psychic Fangs, which will be debuffing their defense, meaning they will be in Energy Ball range. If I can reach it, the opponent gets the full Quick Attack farm down. Win con for the opponent is committing to the Quick Attack farm down, but they throw when they're doubled up. We're now receiving the energy for the Energy Ball. The opponent completely gifted me the battle, but I don't give a shit. I hate Double Charm, and Jamie Finn will be emerging victorious. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see a battle of Steel type. This is such a scuffed matchup. The Volt Switches hitting for double resisting. My Thunderfangs hit for neutral. They fully wall my charge moves. However, they have the ability to hit me for super effective with an Earthquake. Kind of is what it is. One Earthquake is survivable, as they're not the Shadow Fortress. It will do a lot, but the opponent is never ever farming down. We see an aggressive pivot into Wish Daddy Cash, and Wish Daddy Cash is met by Jumpluff. The opponent doesn't farm up to a potential Blizzard, so whatever they throw is going to be resisted. The opponent fire off the Scold. I'm then going to overfarm, fire off the Energy Ball. Energy Ball goes unshielded, removing Wish Daddy Cash from the field of play. Out comes Cradilly, of course. I could throw a charge move here, but I'm here for a good time and not a long time. I know Annihilape is going to easily clean up, and I'm anticipating the opponent top left in when it hits the field of play. I send out Annihilape. The opponent clearly want to play it out. If they want that work, I'm going to give it to them. Right on cue, there's the catch. Rock Tomb is survivable. Back out comes Forretress. The opponent playing it out to the very bitter end, but I'm not entirely sure how they're intending to win this game. I've got 2 shields to hide behind. Steelix gets the opponent into the red health range. I fire off the Rage Fist, looking to bump up my attack. The opponent even invests a Protect Shield. This is probably a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb, of course, would be resisted. The opponent go for that Rock Tomb bait, but that bait will not change their fate. We counter farm down, and the opponent eventually concedes. GG's. Heading into the next battle, we see Superior in the lead position. I used to say switch into Annihilape. However, the opponent would be able to outpace me to a potential Frenzy Plant, and I'd have to make the first shielding decision of the game. So this time, I look to try and catch a double resisted Frenzy Plant onto Jumpluff, and it does not work out. The opponent chipped me with the Aerial Ace and then send out Cradily. Clearly this opponent wants alignment, as they shield the first move and they really don't need to. Once again here, I should always acrobatics, as it does do more. I fire off the energy ball, and that is a huge mistake, and very shortly you're going to see why. The opponent gets a very nice double resisted Bullet Seed farm down. Back out comes Steelix. I fire off one Thunderfang and the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe leaves him on a sliver of HP, so if I would have thrown the acrobatics, I would have kept a lot more HP. Well, that being said, the opponent throws a Rock Tomb, so it kind of works out for me. I made a potato play, and the opponent also makes one in return. They send back out the Grass Snake, fire off the Frenzy Plant. I pivot into Annihilape. The opponent banks an Aerial Ace and then send out a Zoomerall. Annihilape not too bad in this 2-shield scenario. However, the issue is the opponent banked an Aerial Ace, which will certainly be a problem, of course. Annihilape just going to be shielding everything. The opponent going to go straight Ice Beam if they've got it. I think hardly anyone runs Hydro Pump, to be honest. Again, one counter and the next Rage Fist, maintaining disciplined fast move time. The opponent still with one Protect Shield. Of course, I am going to be able to force it, outpacing to this Rage Fist. I need to make a catch. We pivot into Steelix. The opponent hold their energy, banking the Ice Beam. We fire off the Breaking Swipe, but the opponent, if they manage their energy well, are going to win. The opponent does that perfectly, farming up 2 double charge moves. I've got a shield to hide behind, but unfortunately they haven't got enough HP remaining for me to counter farm down, leaving with the Rage Fist. I recognise the game's over, and I will tank the charge move. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Galarian Weezing in the lead position. A very nice lead, especially with shields to hide behind. We do have to be mindful that a lot of people are now switching to Overheat. The opponent sends out Furrow. I send out Annihilape looking for that one shield. Full counter farm down. We leave a lot of residual energy, but we are essentially just going to get Fairy Wind farm down by that returning G-Weezy. Back out comes Galarian Weezing. We farm up to the double Rage Fist. This is either just going to cleanly knock them out or force our shield back. If the opponent's shield, this now gets somewhat dicey. I find myself in the bait game. Do they have Overheat or do they not? I send out Steelix. The opponent has farmed to it. I'm going to respect it, as both my Pokemon are weak to fire. The opponent bait with a Brutal Swing and then send out Guzzlord. Steelix going to unleash the Breaking Swipe, looking to pressure the shield. The first one goes unshielded. We can easily tank whatever they throw. I'm then going to be very cheeky. I don't often bait. They've already seen that Breaking Swipe will pretty much knock them out from here, so I'm going to take the opportunity to go for the world's cheekiest double resisted Psychic Fang bait and then send out Jumpluff and look for that full Fairy Wind farm down. The opponent could potentially have Sludge, but a non-stab Sludge Bomb simply will not cut it. The opponent pivot back out into Galarian Weezing. G-Weezy going to be straight in and straight out. Acrobatics picks up the knockout. We Fairy Wind farm down Guzzlord and take that game. Heading into the next battle, this time we see Guzzlord in the lead position. I'll be honest, one of the main reasons I'd revisit this team, I saw people like Axon, Rise, both post Guzzlord videos, and I thought it would be a pretty common pick, and this whole team does well into it. We haven't seen one to this point in the video, then we see 2 back to back. The opponent's opting to stay in a really negative matchup, so an argument could be made I could try and keep Steelix healthy by investing in a Protect Shield, but it feels bad shielding up a Brutal Swing that does all of about 15% of my HP. Fire off the next Breaking Swipe, forcing a Protect Shield. Steelix able to outpace to the next one. Surely the opponent isn't going to 2-shield. Down goes Guzzlord. The opponent then sends out Pidgeot, and my backline doesn't want to see this thing. The opponent attempts to make a catch onto Tentacle. I hold my energy and Annihilape hits the field of play. Annihilape farms up, fires off the Rage Fist on the charge attack priority to a potential Scald. It goes unshielded. Even if the opponent Acid Spray bait me, I think I'm always shielding this move. The opponent doesn't bait, full send on the Scald. That means I can throw 7 counters, throw the next Rage Fist on the charge attack priority. So it's 8 to the first Scald, 7 to the second. Rage Fist goes unshielded. Annihilape now heavily boosted. These boosted counters going to do massive damage. We're only going to reach the double resisted Rage Fist, but even that is enough to get the job done. A bit dicey, but we got over the line. Heading into the next battle, we found ourselves another issue in the lead position. Despite Steelix being a Steel type, it doesn't do too well into psywave users. such as Malamar and Grumpy, as both have access to fighting type coverage. Superpower will do a lot, and we haven't really got a great way of dealing any meaningful damage to them. The opponent fire off the superpower, attempt to start with Marowak, we're able to save Steelix, and Jumpluff hits the field of play. I was never really a huge fan of Jumpluff, but it's really starting to grow on me, mostly because it completely shuts down Marowak. Marowak, good at cheesing its way for a lot of matches from the 2-shield scenario, but this is one they simply are not flipping. We fire 4 Fairy Winds and the Energy Ball, move Marowak from the field of play, out comes Drapion, Acrobatics also goes unshielded, and looks like this opponent's doing the best impersonation of me. I love to die with 2 shields, and looks like this opponent's also going for that strategy. Crunch picks up the knockout. We send out Steelix, the opponent pivots into Malamar, I send out Annihilape, we're just going to shield, tap like a raging lunatic, tap on my phone as quickly as I can and counter farm down everything. Annihilape counter farms down everything and I take that game. In the next battle we see Galarian Weezing in the lead position. Steelix loves this lead with shields to hide beyond, but I am still worried I might get overheated to the face at some point, which is never going to be good. The opponent safe switch into the thick bunny and Annihilape hits the field of play. Opponent fire off the Scorching Sands, debuff on my attack. We're going to throw 5 counters and the close combat on the charge attack priority, even debuff. This is easily going to pick up the knockout. Annihilape with a debuffed attack and a double debuff defense. However, that kind of works out, meaning Galarian Weezing won't get too much farm. We are going to fire off this Rage Fist, but we are debuffed, so it won't do too much, but all chip damage is welcome. Of course, I will be sending Steelix back into the arena. The opponent here makes a huge mistake. Even if you're not running overheat, you should always farm up to it. It's what I like to call a faking it till you make it. My opponent running an ABB strategy, double weak to fight, and they baited out Annihilape, hoping Cradily can clean up. We're able to catch the double resisted Grass Knot onto Jumpluff, which should pretty much put me back in the driver's seat. We're still well outside of Rock Tomb range, so I don't need to shield this. Rock Tomb does a solid chunk, but the opponent is never ever Bullet Seed farming me down. Again, we go fishing for that debuff. Once again, unsuccessfully. It's like a 10% chance, so surprise, surprise, it isn't happening very often. As I've got 2 shields, I guess it's a good opportunity to invest 1 here. Again, I fire off the Energy Ball, the opponent invests the protection, and can you believe it, we actually get the defense drop. My persistence pays off. The opponent then attempts to catch a charge move onto Galarian Weezing. I send out Steelix, fire off the Break-In Swipe. Break-In Swipe, of course, double resisted. However, it is going to enable a farm down afterwards, rather than trying to go for some undercharge. All we need to do to win this battle is land a single Psychic Fangs, putting them into acrobatics range. Back out comes Cradily. We fire off the Psychic Fangs, and this game is just a win. The opponent, of course, will likely look to farm up 2 double charge moves. However, as I've got a shield to hide beyond, despite the fact Cradily will be winning CMP, and just send out Jumpluff, invest my Protect Shield, tap my move, and that'll be all she wrote. The opponent playing it out to the very bitter end. We shield at the Rock Tomb. Acrobatics even debuffed, of course, easily going to knock out. I don't even know why I bobbled it, to be honest, but we take that game. In the next battle, I knew it was coming, and finally, we see the Snail in the lead position. We say switch into Annihilape, and out comes Mandibuzz. So what I always do is you allow the opponent to throw the Aerial Ace, which is survivable, before you debuff your own defense. I'm then going to throw 4 counters and the close combat. Ice Punch hits for super effective, but close combat neutral and does a lot. The first one, force the protection, Annihilape, able to reach the second one. This is either going to flip switch or force the opponent all shields down. The opponent opted double shield, and that more than works for me. I'm going to send out Steelix to operate as the damage sponge and look to commit to the aggressive Thunderfang farm down. You can see these Dark Pulses don't do too much, so we should be able to get that full farm down. Opponent fire off 1 further Dark Pulse. Steelix looking for that farm down. It looks like the opponent here actually got DRE, as they threw 3 Snarls and the charge move, so Steelix gets removed, but Jumpluff will get an energy lead. The opponent not wanting to give me an energy lead, send out Drapion. Jumpluff with 2 shields to hide behind, looking primed to sweep. We're not going to shield the first crunch, as they do have a chance of a debuff. Of course, now we do need to start shielding and not die with 2. We shield the crunch. I'm going to fire off the acrobatics. Acrobatics won't quite be lethal, but we've already seen does a lot. Unfortunately, this isn't the Shadow Drapion, so not enough to enable a farm down. This is only an Aqua Tail, but I am going to shield. The opponent has Mandibuzz alive. They're likely going to look to make a catch. The opponent send out Gastrodon, attempt to sack Mandibuzz. Even if I would have thrown there, it wouldn't matter. We'd be able to outpace a double energy ball. We show good composure, hold our energy, and pick up that big 1-hit KO. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the final battle of today's video, we see the bulky, boring Blue Mouse Azumarill. In this matchup, Azumarill hitting me for super effective, and I'm hitting them for super effective. However, Psychic Fang's going to debuff their defense, meaning these Thunder Fangs are going to do more and more. The opponent farms to 7, throwing a charge move on alignment, and surprise, they've got Hydro Pump. I really didn't see that one coming. I thought no one runs Hydro Pump, but apparently I get nuked through 2 shields. I send out Annihilape, and the opponent isn't pivoting out, which is arguably a huge mistake. The combination of Ghost and Fighting is currently unresisted in Pokemon Go, so nothing's really going to do a great job of absorbing this energy. Out comes Talonflame. Of course, it isn't a great matchup. We've got so much energy, 2 counters and the first Rage Fist, 2 further counters and Rage Fist. Number 2, the opponent invests that Protect Shield. They look for that Incinerate farm down, but we're outside of 1 Incinerate range. So again, Discipline Time and 2 further counters and the next Rage Fist. Talonflame gets removed from the field of play. We pivot into Jumpluff. It's Venusaur on the back. 1 Sludge Bomb isn't going to be lethal, whereas 1 Acrobatics is. The opponent go for the double resisted Frenzy Plant bait, and they concede the match. GG's to that opponent. Both Venusaur and Talonflame do resist fighting, so I think if the opponent would have pivoted out there, that game could have ended differently. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's shoutcast. This team last season was so strong. This season, I'm not entirely sure it's anywhere near as strong as it once was, so I'm not going to recommend this as a strong climbing team for Season 22 of the Go Battle League. However, if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new, consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. The link to the battle submission form is down below, and as always, a huge thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.